Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel, and it's Septandy time, where a bunch of YouTube creators create videos on Tandys. But before we start with my contribution in Septandy, I did want to give a shout out to all of the other creators which are involved in this. So let's start with Mr. Lurch Things, the guy from Down Under who started this whole Septandy craziness, if I understand correctly. Please check out his channel, as he has lots of content regarding Commodores, Tandys, computers, toys, and lots more. Next up is Mr. Josh Malone from the United States, the guy who also created the Septandy splash screen that I showed in the beginning of the video that I shamelessly copied from him. Definitely check out his channel. Next up is the Retro channel, also located down under, and if you like Commodores, Ataris, and other home computers, this guy has got you covered. Adrian is a man who needs very little introduction. Broadcasting from his digital basement in the United States, he covers Apple, PCs, Commodores, Amigas, Tandys, and all of the above. Dave Just Dave is also one of the Septandy founders, if I'm not mistaken, and one of the first retro channels I actually subscribed to. Lots of great Tandy content, Sierra games, and IBM PCs. Next up we have Jan Bitter from Germany, who has all of your Amiga and Commodore needs covered. We also have Mindflare Retro from Canada, who has all of your 8-bit computer needs covered. And the artist formerly known as Akabukuku has also joined the party, Tech Tangents. Lots of videos on his channel covering a variety of different topics. And last, but definitely not least, the man, the myth, the legend, it's LGR. And so we've arrived to my little contribution of Septandy. I have to be honest with you, I only have two Tandy computers myself. I have the Tandy 1000 TL, which I have already covered in a couple of videos before, and I have this Tandy 1000 SL2, which has been sitting on a shelf for way too long. So I figured this might be an excellent opportunity to turn it on and see what's inside. I even got myself a brand new Tandy enhanced keyboard to go with it, because the one that I already had was a little bit flaky. So here we have it, the Tandy 1000 SL2, a beautiful looking computer. Much like the original Tandy 1000 TL, this one also has a 5¼ inch floppy drive and a 3½ inch disk drive, but internally it's a totally different ball game. But let's start with the exterior. We have the Tandy 1000 SL2 badge, we have the reset button, we have the microphone jack, earphone jack, we have the volume control knob for the speakers, 5¼ inch floppy drive, 3½ inch disk drive, and this nice green power button to turn on the machine. I also like this blue eject button on the disk drive. And the fact that it has a volume control and doesn't even have a sound card is pretty awesome. Now moving to the back, on the left we have the AC power input. We have the Tandy 1000 SL2 computer badge with the model number and serial number, keyboard connector, 2 joystick connectors, left and right. We have the serial port, we have a printer port, we have the monitor port, and this one has this little sticker that says that you can switch video modes using Ctrl-Alt-Shift-V. So this will toggle between monochrome and color depending on your monitor type, and it will also persist that setting into an EEPROM in the computer so that it survives a restart. We have room for 5 expansion cards. I think one of them is filled in, so we'll need to take a look inside what it is. I also have this Tandy computer monitor here. I think this is the monochrome version. It has the Tandy label. It has a type number here, which is NBRVM16. I think Philips also use these types of monitors, so they're pretty common. But this one has the Tandy sticker and badge, so that's kind of cool. We have some controls on the back, allowing us to set the width of the display, the height of the display, using these kind of knobs. And we also have a DIN connector here for the video signal coming from the computer. Now to remove the top lid of the PC, you need to remove 2 screws, which I already did, so let's take it off. And the first thing we notice is this hard drive on a hard card. Now this is the first computer I have owned which has such a thing, so yeah, pretty excited about that. Now the power button here on the front of the PC is routed to the switch on the power supply using this plastic rod thing. Not really fond of those things. On my other Tandy computer, I actually held on to this while I was moving it, and I broke off the plastic thing on the power supply. But yeah, pretty excited about this hard card, so I really hope that this hard drive will still work. So layout is pretty basic. We have the 2 disk drives, we have the power supply, the hard card, motherboard, lots of stuff integrated on the board, so no additional expansion cards needed. We have some additional room for expansion slots here. So we have 5 8-bit ISA slots. Here we have a view of the speaker, which produces that beautiful Tandy sound. And let's start by removing the 5 1/4 inch floppy drive, followed by the 3 1/2 inch disk drive. Now this one uses a standard floppy cable, and it also has a separate power connector. But the 3 1/2 inch disk drive is a different story, because this one is powered through this ribbon cable here. So you cannot actually fit a standard 3 1/2 inch disk drive on this thing. Now the Tandy does have an integrated floppy drive controller, so that's nice. So you don't need an additional expansion card. And it's pretty easy to get out, so you just need to unscrew a couple of screws and the thing should come right off. Now also note, because this computer comes with 2 disk drives, there is no room for a hard drive. The only option is to use this hard card. And taking a look at the disk drive here, you can see that we have the floppy drive connector, but no power connector. And of course, because both disk drives share the same cable and the 3 1/2 inch disk drive gets its power from this ribbon cable, they needed to figure something out for the 5 1/4 inch disk drive, because that one gets separate power. And what they did was they punched these little holes in this ribbon cable here so that it wouldn't basically fry the 5 1/4 inch disk drive. Now what I also like to do is check for shorts on the 12 volt and the 5 volt rails, which are easily accessible via this Molex connector. So while I have the case open, I'm just going to take a look at it. And although my multimeter has this beep function, it will beep when the resistance is below a certain threshold. I think it's 40 or 50 or something. So despite the fact that it's beeping, you can definitely see that this is not a dead short. And actually, if I disconnect the hard drive, the resistance goes up and the beeping stops. But now let's remove the hard card from the computer. So yeah, I mean, first time I saw this, I thought it was pretty mind-boggling to have a hard drive sitting on an expansion card. I mean, obviously this is just a hard drive mounted on a bracket, connected to a hard drive controller mounted on the same bracket. But still, I mean, the idea of having a hard drive placed like that in an ISA slot on a computer, yeah, even to this day remains pretty special. So yeah, really excited to have this. We're going to take a closer look at it later on in this video. We're going to power it on, obviously, and see if it still works. But yeah, you can definitely see hard drive controller card on a single bracket that can be inserted on an ISA slot. So let's take a closer look at this hard drive controller combo. So this is a Western Digital 3 1/2 inch hard drive, WD93028X, and this is in fact an IDE hard drive. So this is not an MFM hard drive. So this is an old 8-bit XT IDE hard drive. And these things are very difficult to come by, and it's in fact one of the few ways that you can get an IDE hard drive working on an old XT class computer like this. So unlike the old MFM hard drives that uses 2 separate cables, a data cable and a control cable, this one uses a single IDE cable. So let's get the hard drive out of the bracket and do the same with the controller card. Now this is a Western Digital controller card, XT IDE 8-bit ISA. So here's the empty bracket. Now let's take a closer look at the individual components. And let's start with the hard drive. Here you can clearly see the stepper motor exposed. The Western Digital, this is quite a famous XT IDE 8-bit hard drive. These things needed to be low-level format before you could use them. They use a single IDE cable. It's powered using a standard Molex connector. And yeah, it uses the same number of pins as a standard IDE hard drive. Now the controller card has a Western Digital ROM included here, and it's designed to work specifically with this Western Digital 8-bit IDE hard drive. So the type is a WDXT150. So we have the ROM chip, we have the IDE connector, and a power connector. So moving to the back of the computer, there's this plastic back panel that we can remove, so we need to be very careful with that. I usually put the computer on its side like that and then use a screwdriver to carefully lift up the two plastic clips on both sides and then really gently wiggling it off of the back of the computer, and without too much trouble you should be able to extract it from the chassis. And that is actually needed to get to the power supply, but before we do that we need to remove this plastic power button extension here, so very carefully removing it from the power supply connector. And then we can take off the power supply, and yeah, these screws were bolted on really tight, so I couldn't get them off with my screwdriver, so I had to use this, I don't know how you call it, this kind of hex tool or something. You just put it over the screw and then you can apply a little bit more force to open up the screw without damaging it. So we'll remove the power connector also from the motherboard, and then we can lift off the power supply from the chassis and take a closer look at this one. And upon initial inspection, the thing looks really good. There's almost no dirt or dust inside. The capacitors are looking good. But I'm going to remove this 12-volt fan here so that I can have an even better look at the internals of the power supply. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. And yeah, like I said, I mean, it's super clean. It's almost shiny. So even the output capacitors here show no signs of bulging or leaking. So I'm pretty confident that this will work properly. So I've hooked up a hard drive that I'm using as a test load, hooked up my multimeter, and we get an excellent 5-volt and 12-volt on their respective rails. So yeah, really excited that this power supply is still working and doesn't need any fixing. Now the cables on these power supplies are really short, and the only way to properly use them is to have them actually assembled into the case. So I'm just going to return the power supply unit back into the case so that we can power on the computer. But first I'm going to check if there are any shorts on the motherboard. Now I am going to be using my multimeter here to see if there aren't any shorts on this power connector here, because here I can access all of the voltage rails. And yeah, nothing seems to be shorted to ground, so that's a good thing. So at this point I figured I've done my due diligence, so I've added the power supply back onto the case, hooked up the power supply to the motherboard, and I wanted to see if this thing would turn on. So I also hooked up my Tandy monitor and decided to flip the switch. So the monitor already powers on, which is good. So now let's do the same thing with the actual computer. So we could hear the Tandy start a beep, meaning that the computer has started, but nothing is being shown on the Tandy monitor, which is a bit of a shame. And even after fiddling around with the controls on the monitor or switching display modes on the Tandy computer, nothing would come on the screen. So I decided to replace it with my Tulip monitor. Now this is a monochrome monitor that does support Hercules mode, but obviously this Tandy computer is now starting in color mode, so the monitor is not able to display anything. But after switching to text mode, we actually see output. And that output is the Tandy computer booting into MS-DOS from its internal ROM. So you don't need a hard drive or a floppy disk to boot this thing, so this was pretty special back in the day. It even has a basic version of DeskMate in its ROM, so yeah, really cool. But in this case, we're not really interested in what's on the ROM. We're interested in what is on this hard drive sitting on this hard card. So this is a Western Digital MFM 3.5-inch hard drive, accompanied with this Western Digital controller card, 8-bit ISA obviously, sitting on this metal bracket. ready to be plugged into a free ISA slot in this computer. So let's do exactly that. It's a bit finicky to get it in. There's kind of this little hole here on the front where you need to slide it in, and then you need to align it a little bit so that it fits onto the ISA slot, and then you just push it down and it's installed. So yeah, let's flip the switch. Computer still turns on, we get the beep. It takes a while for the hard drive to start spinning, takes a couple of seconds, but it does appear to be working. So let's take a closer look and listen. So you can actually hear the stepper motor doing its thing. You can hear the heads moving, and it is actually starting up in MS-DOS. So the hard drive appears to be working. So it's making that really typical MFM hard drive sound. So it's kind of a squeaky noise almost. But yeah, definitely booting from the hard drive. So that's pretty good news. So we'll take a look at what's on the hard drive later on. But let's first return to the Tandy monitor, because I wasn't quite happy with the fact that I had just given up on it. So I actually replaced the video cable, and I actually got some kind of output now, although it was pretty garbled. At first I thought it was the video mode on the Tandy, which was incompatible. But even with the monochrome setting, which I'm sure that this monitor supports, I couldn't get a fixed screen here. And as I was kind of tapping on the monitor on its side, I got a clearer picture. It was still not 100%. And as I started dialing in using the controls on the back of the monitor, at some point I actually got a pretty clear picture. And it's a really cool amber color monochrome monitor, which I really like. But as with all good things that need to come to an end, as soon as I turned off the monitor and turned it back on again, I again had an unstable picture. So even tapping it on the side a couple of times seemed to fix it. So there's obviously still something wrong with this monitor that I'll attempt to fix in a future video. But now let's get this back panel off the computer so that we can take the motherboard out, because we also want to take a look at. Now I kid you not when I say that this motherboard was attached to its case with the most bolted down screws that I have ever seen in a computer. It actually took quite a bit of effort to get them all off, but I finally managed to do that. Got the back cover off as well, and then we can simply slide out the motherboard out of its case. So let's take it on the bench and take a closer look. And we start with the 5 8-bit ISA slots we have on the motherboard for expansion. We have a video output connector here on the motherboard, 9-pin D-sub connector. We have a serial port as well as a parallel port on the motherboard. Now the keyboard connector and the joystick connector are attached to the motherboard using this connector here on the side. We have the power connector. The brains of this computer is the Intel 8086 16-bit CPU. This one is manufactured by AMD, and we have a socket for a Mathco Pro, which isn't populated. We have 640 kilobytes of RAM. By default, this computer came with 512 kilobytes of RAM, but we can upgrade it to 640, although some of that memory is shared with the video chip. We have 2 BIOS or ROM chips on the motherboard. So these will contain the MS-DOS and DeskMate version in ROM. Here we have the video chip, which produces that 16 color CGA-like Tandy graphics with the video memory. We have the sound chip on the other side of the motherboard, which also handles the joystick interfacing and stuff like that. Here we have the Zilog chip, which handles the floppy drive controller. So as you've already seen, this motherboard has an integrated floppy drive controller and connector. And that about wraps it up, our little overview of the motherboard. So that's pretty much it for part 1 of my Tandy 1000 SL2 overview. I have still lots of stuff to cover because I haven't looked at the software which is installed, and I also have lots of documentation that came with it, so we'll definitely need to explore that as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to do a search on YouTube for Septandy to see lots of other cool Tandy videos, and I hope to see you guys soon in a future Tandy video. Bye bye, take care.